Star Wars fans are passionate in the best possible way. This is a community that can unpack a lightsaber color like its philosophy, defend a trilogy like its family, and feel every high and low of this franchise with absolute devotion. That passion is what keeps Star Wars alive across generations. We're diving into both sides, the moments fans treasure and the moments they'd happily eject into a galaxy far, far away. This is Star Wars at its brightest and at its most bewildering. The Empire Strikes Back, when Star Wars grew up. Let's start with the most universally loved moment in Star Wars history. I am your father. Everyone knows this scene. Luke Skywalker, battered and defeated, hanging from a metal antenna in Cloud City. Darth Vader stands above him, hand extended, offering power and partnership. And then he drops the bomb. No, I am your father. Luke screams. The music swells. It's perfect. Suddenly, every interaction between Luke and Vader in A New Hope meant something different. Obi-Wan's careful wording, Vader betrayed and murdered your father,
Vader betrayed and murdered my father,
became a lie told from a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view.
The entire saga shifted from a simple good versus evil story into something about family, redemption, and the complexity of falling to darkness. George Lucas didn't even tell Mark Hamill the real line until the day they shot it. During filming, the script said, "Obi-Wan killed your father." Only Hamill, director Irvin Kershner, and Lucas knew the truth. They kept it secret because they understood this reveal had to be perfect. No leaks, no spoilers, just pure, devastating impact. And it worked. When Empire hit theaters in 1980, audiences lost their minds. Some didn't believe it. They thought Vader was lying. Others immediately understood the implications. If Vader could be Luke's father, maybe he could be redeemed. The entire trajectory of the trilogy changed in one sentence. This is Star Wars at its best, emotionally resonant, narratively bold, and perfectly executed. Now let's talk about the opposite end of the spectrum, the Phantom Menace, the midichlorian problem. In 1999, George Lucas decided to explain the Force. After 2 decades of it being this mystical, spiritual energy field, he gave it a biological explanation, midichlorians.
What are midichlorians?
Microscopic organisms in your blood that allow you to connect with the Force. The more midichlorians you have, the more powerful you are. It's quantifiable. It's scientific. Fans hated it, absolutely despised it. You see, the Force was supposed to be about belief, discipline, and spirituality. Yoda's whole philosophy in Empire was that size doesn't matter. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. The Force was egalitarian in a way. Anyone could theoretically learn to use it with enough training and faith. Midichlorians destroyed that. Now the Force was genetic. You either had it or you didn't. It was less mystical energy field and more superhero mutation. It turned Jedi into a privileged class born with power rather than people who achieved it through dedication. But what really made fans angry was that it felt unnecessary. Nobody needed the Force explained. The mystery was part of the magic. Lucas took something spiritual and made it biological, and in doing so, he stripped away the wonder. One character casually mentioning midichlorians in a conversation with a 9-year-old boy somehow diminished 20 years of mythology. The scene itself is barely 2 minutes long. Qui-Gon Jinn takes a blood sample from Anakin, sends it to Obi-Wan, and gets a reading. That's it. But those 2 minutes created a rift in the fan base that still exists today. Some fans literally pretend midichlorians don't exist. They've written them out of their personal canon. So what's the pattern here? The most loved moment deepened the mythology without explaining it. The most hated moment explained something that didn't need explaining. Keep that in mind. It'll come back later. Return of the Jedi, redemption, and teddy bears. Return of the Jedi contains both one of the most emotionally powerful moments in the saga and one of the most ridiculed. Let's start with the love. Darth Vader's redemption. The throne room scene where Luke refuses to kill his father, gets tortured by the Emperor, and Vader finally turns on his master to save his son. It's the payoff to the entire original trilogy. The moment where Anakin Skywalker comes back. What makes this scene work is restraint. There's no dialogue when Vader makes his choice. He just watches Luke suffering, looks at the Emperor, looks back at Luke, and then acts. The decision happens silently. We see it in his body language, the head turning back and forth, the hesitation, the sudden movement. David Prowse's physical performance combined with John Williams' score does all the work, and then the mask comes off. We finally see Anakin's face, scarred, pale, dying, and he tells Luke, "You were right about me." It's a father admitting his son knew him better than he knew himself. It's forgiveness. It's love. It's the entire point of Star Wars, that no one is beyond redemption if someone believes in them. Fans adore this moment. It's why people defend the prequels despite their flaws. because they add context to this redemption. We see Anakin as a good person who falls, which makes his return to the light even more powerful. Now, Return of the Jedi also gave us Ewoks. The Battle of Endor is controversial for one reason. Teddy bears defeat the Empire. These primitive Stone Age creatures use rocks and sticks to take down AT-STs and stormtroopers. They're clearly designed to sell toys. They make cutesy noises, and they're instrumental in destroying the shield generator that allows the rebels to blow up the Death Star. A lot of fans find this ridiculous. The Empire, which conquered the galaxy, gets beaten by what look like living stuffed animals. It undercuts the threat. It makes the climax feel less epic and more like a Saturday morning cartoon. But some fans defend it. They argue the Ewoks represent the Vietnam War allegory Lucas intended, a technologically superior force defeated by guerrilla tactics and knowledge of the terrain. They point out that Ewoks actually die in the battle, which gives them stakes. And honestly, kids love them. An entire generation grew up thinking Ewoks were awesome. So here's the question. Can a film contain both transcendent emotion and tonal whiplash? Apparently yes, because Jedi somehow balances space fantasy's most touching moment with its most toy commercial moment, and the franchise survived. So a question. Did you have Star Wars toys as a kid? If you did, I want to hear about it in the comments below, and strike that subscribe button with your plastic lightsaber whilst you're there. The Force Awakens, the power of nostalgia. Fast forward to 2015, Disney has bought Star Wars. J.J. Abrams is directing, and fans are terrified. The prequels left a bad taste. George Lucas is gone. Can Star Wars even work without him? Then Rey uses the Force for the first time. She's captured by Kylo Ren. She's never heard of the Force beyond legends, but she remembers stories about Jedi mind tricks, so she tries one on a stormtrooper. It fails. She tries again. It fails. Third time, hesitantly, she says, "You will remove these restraints and leave this cell with the door open."
You will remove these restraints and leave this cell with the door open.
And it works. The music swells, the Force theme plays, and fans in theaters started crying. Here's why this moment resonated. It felt earned. Rey struggled. She failed twice before succeeding. And when it worked, it wasn't about power levels or genetics. It was about belief. It was a callback to Luke's training with Yoda, to the original trilogy's philosophy that the Force responds to faith, not just bloodlines. The scene also introduced Rey properly. She's resourceful, clever, and determined. She doesn't wait to be rescued. He rescues herself. For a lot of fans, especially younger ones and women who'd waited decades for a female Jedi protagonist, this moment was everything. But The Force Awakens also contains one of the most divisive moments in Star Wars history, Han Solo's death. Kylo Ren murders his father on a bridge inside Starkiller Base. Han reaches out to touch his son's face. Ben Solo drives a lightsaber through his chest. Han falls into the abyss. It's brutal. It's shocking. And fans were split. Some loved it. They thought it gave Kylo Ren real stakes as a villain. He's not conflicted. He's committed to darkness. It's tragic, heroic, and mythic. Han dies trying to save his son, just like Luke tried to save Vader. Others hated it. Han Solo, the character who defined cool for 40 years, gets killed by his whiny emo kid. There's no big fight, no heroic sacrifice that saves the resistance. He just dies. For fans who grew up with Han as their hero, this felt like a betrayal. They wanted him to go out in a blaze of glory, not manipulated by his own son. And here's the really divisive part. Harrison Ford wanted Han dead since 1983. He'd been asking to kill the character for decades. So this scene was less about story necessity and more about finally giving Ford what he wanted. Some fans felt that was the wrong reason to kill an iconic character. The Last Jedi? Art film versus blockbuster. And now we get to The Last Jedi, which might be the most debated Star Wars movie of all time. People either love it, hate it, or switch between those feelings every few minutes. It has scenes that feel like some of the best storytelling Star Wars has ever had, and scenes that feel like they were written during a coffee break. Sometimes the highs and lows are happening at the exact same time. Let's start with something people generally agree is great. Luke and Yoda by the burning tree. Luke is exhausted and disillusioned. He thinks the Jedi Order was a mistake and should fade away for good. Then Yoda appears, but not shiny CGI Yoda. This is the puppet Yoda, the warm, expressive, slightly chaotic little sage from Empire Strikes Back. The moment he shows up, it feels like the heart of Star Wars is back in the room. Luke panics about the fate of the sacred Jedi texts. Yoda just laughs and says they were not exactly thrilling reads. Then he drops a line that is quietly one of the most meaningful in the entire saga. "We are what they grow beyond. That is the true burden of all masters." In that moment, Yoda reframes the entire Jedi legacy. The point is not to preserve tradition forever. The point is to teach, to grow, to accept that the next generation will change everything. It is wise, warm, and honest. Fans who love The Last Jedi often point to this scene as the film truly understanding what Star Wars has always been about: growth, acceptance, and letting go. And then, we go to Canto Bight. Canto Bight is the part where a lot of viewers check out. Finn and Rose go on a side quest to a casino city filled with wealthy arms dealers and animal races. The idea behind the sequence is actually interesting, showing the economic side of war and who profits from it. But the execution feels disconnected. They're supposed to find a master codebreaker. They fail. They find a random guy instead. He betrays them. They rescue some animals. The story ends exactly where it started. The problem is not that the sequence has nothing to say, it is that it does not affect the plot when it is over. If you remove the entire Canto Bight storyline, the main story continues exactly the same. That made it feel like filler, which is why so many fans call it one of the weakest parts of the movie. Fans hated it. To a lot of people, it felt like padding, like the movie stopped the main story so we could watch a side quest that didn't matter. The messages about war, profiteering, and animal abuse were there, but the delivery felt heavy-handed, almost like the film paused to lecture the audience. And the character of DJ, the stand-in codebreaker, didn't help. He was introduced, acted shady, betrayed everyone, and then disappeared. There was no emotional payoff, no lasting impact. What made it sting even more was that Finn, who started the trilogy as one of the most promising new characters, ended up in a storyline that went nowhere. His arc in Force Awakens was all about escaping the First Order and finding something worth fighting for. In The Last Jedi, that arc could have evolved beautifully. Instead, he spends much of the movie running errands. Fans felt like his character deserved better. But this is also what makes The Last Jedi so interesting to talk about. Rian Johnson was very clearly trying to do something different. He wanted to challenge classic Star Wars expectations. Luke isn't the perfect legendary hero we imagined, Rey doesn't have a special bloodline, the Jedi legacy is flawed, and failure is part of growth. Some of these choices were genuinely thoughtful. Some fell flat, but none of them were lazy. The prequels, a meme-worthy tragedy. We need to talk about the prequels, because here's the thing. They're simultaneously some of the most mocked and most beloved films in the franchise. It depends entirely on which generation you ask. The most hated moment is probably the one you're thinking of. I don't like sand.
I don't like sand.
Anakin Skywalker's attempt at flirting with Padme in Attack of the Clones has become legendary for all the wrong reasons. I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here. Here, everything is soft and smooth. The delivery is wooden, the writing is awkward, it's become a meme, a punchline, shorthand for bad dialogue. But fans who grew up with the prequels see something different. They see Anakin as traumatized. He was a slave on a desert planet. Sand represents his childhood, his mother, his chains. When he says he doesn't like sand, he's saying he doesn't like what he came from. It's clumsy, sure, but it's also kind of tragic when you think about it. And the prequels gave us one genuinely masterful moment that even haters acknowledge. Order 66. The montage of Jedi being murdered across the galaxy, set to John Williams' haunting Anakin's betrayal theme, is devastating. We see Jedi we've followed for 3 films cut down by the clones they trusted. We see younglings hiding from Anakin. We see the Republic transform into the Empire in real time. It's the moment where everything the prequels built toward pays off. All the political maneuvering, all the manipulation, all of Palpatine's careful planning culminates in this genocide. And it's shot beautifully. Quick cuts, minimal dialogue, just music and violence and the death of hope. This is why the prequels have been rehabilitated over time. Beneath the awkward dialogue and Jar Jar Binks, there's a genuine tragedy. The story of the Republic's fall and Anakin's corruption is compelling. The execution was often rough, but the vision was sound. The Mandalorian, fixing what broke. Here's where we see the pattern most clearly. The Mandalorian became a phenomenon because it gave fans both the most loved and most initially controversial moments in recent Star Wars, and somehow made both work. Luke Skywalker's appearance in the Season 2 finale made grown adults weep. Seeing him in his prime, a fully realized Jedi Master, rescuing Grogu with effortless power, it was cathartic. It was the Luke fans felt they deserved after the Last Jedi controversy. The de-aging CGI wasn't perfect, but nobody cared. The moment was perfect. But when the Book of Boba Fett brought back a de-aged Luke for multiple episodes, the response was mixed. The CGI was better, but something felt off. The novelty had worn off. Fans started questioning whether constantly bringing back legacy characters was sustainable. Was Star Wars capable of moving forward, or would it always look backward? And that's the question the franchise faces now. Every beloved moment is rooted in nostalgia or emotional payoff built over decades. Every hated moment happens when the franchise tries something new, explains too much, or fails to meet the impossible expectations fans have built up. The impossible balance. So what have we learned? Star Wars is at its best when it deepens its mythology without over-explaining it, when it trusts its audience to feel rather than understand, when it focuses on character and emotion over spectacle and logic. It's at its worst when it explains the mystery away, when it prioritizes merchandising over story, when it forgets that Star Wars works because it's a fairy tale, not hard science fiction. But here's the really dark truth. Star Wars fans don't actually agree on what makes Star Wars good. The original trilogy fans want mystery and myth. The prequel fans want world building and lore. The sequel fans want diverse characters and modern themes. The Mandalorian fans want standalone adventures without baggage. Every creative decision will thrill some fans and enrage others. There is no safe choice. There is no universally loved approach. The franchise that united generations has become the thing that divides them. George Lucas created something so big, so mythologically resonant, that it can't possibly satisfy everyone anymore. Every filmmaker who touches Star Wars is doomed to create both transcendent moments and absolute disasters, often in the same film, sometimes in the same scene. They thought they were making space adventure films. They had no idea they were creating modern mythology that would be analyzed, debated, and fought over for decades. They wanted to tell stories about good versus evil, redemption and hope. Instead, they created something that reflects our own conflicts back at us. What we love and hate about Star Wars says more about us than it does about the films themselves. And maybe that's the most Star Wars thing of all, a saga about the eternal struggle between light and darkness, played out not just on screen, but in the hearts of every fan who's ever argued about midichlorians at 3 in the morning. The Force will be with us always. We just can't agree on what the Force actually is. If you enjoyed this deep dive, then hit that like button, subscribe for more movie facts, and tell us in the comments, what do you think about this movie franchise? If you enjoyed this video, then you should check out our Star Wars series to learn more weird facts and scenes that change cinema forever.
Wow, that was weird.